So, Susanna, thank you so much for joining me today for this live. I'm really excited. For those of you who don't know, Susanna is Let's Move Personal Training. And we had an amazing conversation yesterday where she told me lots of her story, and I'm hoping we can fold a lot of that into today's live. But I want to start with, well, actually, what I want to start with is Susanna has just pointed out to me we are totally on topic, aren't we? Because it's mental health. Is it Mental Health Awareness Week?
It is. And the theme is all about movement and mental health.
Perfect. So we didn't even know how topical we were. We could have pretended, but we didn't know how topical we were, but we're extremely topical. So this is absolutely what we should be talking about this week. So what I wanted to start with, Susanna, if we can, because I think this was the thing from our talk yesterday that really stuck with me. You said to me that as hunter-gatherers, which of course we are, even though we have these modern lives with TikTok and God knows what, but our bodies, we're hunter-gatherers. And there are, was it 5 activities that are kind of our norm, what our body expects to be doing? Can you talk us through that? Because I found that fascinating.
Yes. So the first one is that as hunter-gatherers, if we look at what anthropologists have found out, and we look at kind of other research, then we have the kind of physiology of hunter-gatherers. We evolved to do that really, really well, okay? And pulling together all the sort of studies of past and present, that lands in kind of 5 broad activities. So one is we would have done lots of walking, loads and loads and loads of walking. And when we were walking, you'll be trying to not get lost and stay with the group, So lots of brain work. So this is why kind of moving and brain is completely linked, so that we could do that. We could track and find the animal and also not get lost, come back, and also not lose anybody in our group, and there might have been a bit of light jogging there, but really that's kind of walking and sort of intentional walking. You're not necessarily sort of ambling, but we can go long, long distances. The second thing is that from time to time we would, do stuff where we'd get out of breath. So we'd really get our heart rate up, and that might be kind of running to throw the stone to kill the prey, or I don't know, more day to day, I don't know, run and catch the kids, or really lifting some really heavy stuff where you get your heart rate up. So that's another kind of thing that we need to do. The third thing is that we would have been kind of load bearing. We would have been lifting things. We would have been digging. We would have been carrying. We would have been climbing. We were kind of throwing stuff. So we're doing stuff that involves muscles and strength. The fourth thing, and this is the thing that I really like, is that from time to time, sort of regularly, we would dance all night. And that's as much about kind of, bonding and sorting stuff out and bringing the group together as perhaps, I don't know, realizing that we've got this incredible endurance. But also, I think for me, I see it more in terms of us moving in a kind of real 360 way. Because doing this just linear is running, walking. It's a bit like in this direction, but dancing is kind of a whole body thing. And then the last thing that we would do is we never really sat still. So we did lots of resting because there was a need to save calories. But when we were resting, we were always just slightly busy. And when we were sitting, we weren't just sort of inert. And we would sit in multitude of ways, and probably not with a seat back either. And probably be moving.
Okay, so that's what our bodies expect to be doing.
That's our optimum. That's our kind of operations manual, if you like. And the challenge is that now we don't live that kind of lifestyle, and we are in this really different setup where we have so many calories around us that it's very, whereas the hunter-gatherers didn't really have many calories around them. So for them, they would be conserving calories. Because you're not going to go on a 5K run. I'll just go and nip out, because you're trying to hang on to calories. Because, and this is the other sort of 5 thing I'll share, which is calories only go in 5 ways. The energy that you eat, it goes in growth, goes in storage, it goes in maintenance, it goes in activity, or it goes in reproduction.
Yeah.
So if our driver was to have enough energy to go and get food and enough energy to reproduce, we were absolutely conserving calories.
Yeah.
So this great thing about the lens of the hunter-gatherer is it then explains why we're drawn to kind of go, oh, well, I'm just going to rest, because that's a really powerful, almost kind of irresistible force, but a really powerful driver to rest, conserve, despite the fact, that the calorie thing is very different.
Yeah, so we have these bodies that expect to be expending calories in these ways that were so vital to our survival.
Yep.
And then we are drawn to rest because we're trying to conserve energy.
Yep.
But we now live in a world where we're sedentary and rest is often available and calories are available everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very, very different. And what this lens gives us is it says, okay, if that's the kind of operating manual, it's not rocket science. It kind of, why I like to share that is because for me, it makes sense of why we need to do what we do, when a lot of stuff about where we can get stuck in exercise is because it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Yeah. So once you start looking at those 5 sort of elements, you can go, oh, okay, well, okay, walking, I can do that. There's ways to do that. And you can find ways that fit in with your life, because in the end, I think good is building an active life where exercise, in a way, I'm not going to say doesn't exist because people use different terms, but is fully integrated into your life.
Yeah.
So
it's not a separate activity.
It's not a separate thing. There's none of this, people go, oh, I must go to the gym. Yeah. Must do this. I'm like, no, really don't do that. Life's too short to do that. There's so many ways to move. So we can find ways, if you go through the 5 things, we can find ways opportunities to walk. There's many opportunities to kind of get your heart rate up a bit, find something that you like doing. And as part of what I do is talk to people and go, well, what do you like doing? And go, oh, yeah, you're allowed to do that. Yeah. You don't need to ask anything. You can just do that. And if that's dancing out in the kitchen,
I love a kitchen disco. One of my favorite ways to exercise is a kitchen disco.
Yeah. And that can be, people talk about this magic sort of 15 minutes of the kind of HIIT workout or the 15-minute thing to start. 5 songs of 3 minutes each.
That's it.
At a decent beat per minute.
Yeah.
There's an amazing little workout, and how joyful.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, especially if you've got someone to do it with, or maybe you just want to do it on your own. Maybe that's more fun,
Yeah.
So I could run through, the other things then is that you talk about, load bearing, building muscle, getting strong, so many different ways to do it. Yeah. You don't need to go to the gym. You can do it at home. You can do it with your body. You can do it with weights. You can do it with bands. There's something that's going to work for you.
And I think what's been really helpful for me since I started weight training, I do go to a gym, but it's not a standard gym. I call it, those kind of teeth and ponytail gyms. It's not one of those. It's like it's an industrial unit, and my personal trainer works from there, and it's just really laid back. It's a pleasant place to be.
Yeah.
But she makes it very clear that all the work she has me doing, so whether it's lifting something, carrying something, moving, whatever it is, it's functional movement. We're doing lunges because that helps you be able to climb the stairs when you're older. And we're doing this so you can get out of a chair. And so it's not just kind of done in a vacuum. It's not, well, how much can I lift over my head, but why would I want to? It's like, because having these muscles working gives you functional movement that is life movement.
Yes. And that thing of going, why to do it? Yeah. And I'm really curious that, I'm really pleased actually that you say that that's what your personal trainer does, because I think that's a key part of my job, to go, this is why you're doing it. This is physiologically what happens to the body, how it responds, and this is why you need to do it. So this thing about moving and muscles, the thing that's really scary about if you don't do that, and you look at this, there's this really interesting graph in Daniel Lieberman's book, Exercised, where there's very clear data that says, keep moving and you live longer. Yeah. But more importantly, keep moving and you keep your capability longer.
Yes.
Yeah. So the idea that because we're old, we stop moving. Yeah.
Absolutely.
When we stop moving, we get old. So this nasty shadow of what's called morbidity becomes huge. Whereas hunter-gatherers would be busy, climb the tree, run and catch the thing, hold the kids, grandparents still around to look after big time, and then probably fall out of the tree. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that is what ended up motivating me to start working with a personal trainer, because I'd never been motivated by these messages about lose weight or get in shape or your beach body and all this utter nonsense, which again makes it kind of other than just life. I heard someone talking on a podcast about, I think he termed it the Centennial Olympics. He was, in his mind, he was training for the Centennial Olympics. It was about what he wanted to be able to do when he was 100 years old. Should he be fortunate enough to live that long, what physical capabilities did he want to have? And he was talking about getting up out of a chair unaided, being able to just do personal care unaided, play with great grandchildren, get up off the floor, all these kinds of things.
Yep.
And he said that we have a natural, of course, we have a natural wastage, you know, however fit we are now, we're not going to be that fit when we're 80, 90, 100. So he said you need a certain level of fitness now to then, for that to be where you waist down to still be able to do stuff. I'd never heard anything more motivating. I think I booked in with a personal trainer within like 2 weeks. It's like, that makes sense, because I want to still be able to live my life.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing is, I'm so with you that this whole focus on what the body looks like. No. It's like, what does this feel like? How do I feel? How do I feel about my day and about myself and about looking after myself, both mentally and physically? And I think, you know, I'm a bit older, I think quite a bit older than you. So whilst there's no grandchildren on the way, I hope, not unless someone's, you know, done something and not told me. It's like, you definitely want to be fit and able. And for me, having had this period where, you know, I managed this hip condition before having my hip surgery, which when you look on the gram, you can see my very beautiful sort of, you know, cowboy sort of, you know, guns in my hips, as it were. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, I'm so excited to have that capability. It's like, I really want to hang on to it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's something you didn't always have. So it's even more valuable.
I didn't have to really fight to do that. And I suppose that was a part of changing what I do, is that I then really realized how much you lose by not having it. So whilst it's hard if don't have a practice of doing that, once you start, you know, moving more and in these different ways, which are not hard, then you just really notice it. And the idea, it's like having the most amazing sports car. Yeah, it's like having a convertible sports car and not putting the roof down, and putting the music on.
Never enjoying it.
The metal,
Yes.
Who wants to be driving around at, you know, in second gear all the time?
Not using it to its full capability.
Yeah, and I'm not just saying that you need to be a sort of speed freak or anything, but just
but
there's so much pleasure, as well as just keeping this ordered, and in the way that you talk about looking after yourself, to be getting the basics right, to be productive and your best self, in all aspects. There's just a lot of pleasure.
Yes. And that's what we're missing, because these discussions of fitness and health are so focused on, well, for a start, they're focused on the external, the aesthetic, which is, you know, that's a whole other conversation. But they're also so focused on being less, like get smaller. You know, the whole point is to get smaller. It's like, no, be more. Just let's all be lots more and take up more space and move and dance. You know, I hate this narrative of let's be less.
Yeah, especially for women.
Yes, you know? Exactly. Absolutely.
We didn't speak about this when we spoke yesterday, but when I was in my sort of late teens and 20s, you know, I went there. I was anorexic.
Yeah, you did mention that briefly yesterday. Yeah.
You know, I can't really look at a pot of cottage cheese and not slightly go, oh, because at a certain point I ate far too much of it, and that was still very much the kind of obviously there was stuff I needed to sort it out that was connected to, but the body image was still what was it for mine in the 70s? It was the whole kind of slimsia girl who got in this sort of balloon and faded away, you know, rose up to the skies because she weighed so little, you know.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah.
And I think that's changed now. Like if I look at my daughter and her friends and images and their clothes and what they're doing, the world seems a lot more inclusive. However, there is still the kind of the body beautiful, and that is a certain age, a certain look. So maybe it's worse for them because there's so much social media.
And there's so many visuals. One thing I did want to touch on from your story, actually, Susanna, the other thing you said yesterday, which I thought was so interesting, was you had been in a lot of pain for a very long time with your hip condition, and then you were given this opportunity to have the surgery and, you know, make this change. And we talked a bit about how even though on paper that change was going to be for the better and you were going to be mobile and you were going to do all these things, it was still frightening because it was change. I'd love you to just speak a little bit about that as well, just the fear of going there.
Okay, so I think I'd found a way of managing this thing which was really hard to manage, and then I was fearful that things could be worse afterwards. Like, what if I couldn't walk at all? Because I had both my hips done at the same time. And then I had this fear around that, having hung on for so long to manage it, that if I said yes to surgery, I'd be effectively saying I couldn't handle this thing that I had, that I wasn't capable of dealing with it, and therefore I wasn't capable of dealing with life. So I found myself in a kind of freeze sort of situation. And should I talk about the point that kind of unlocked that when I talk about with the surgery?
Please do. I mean, I just think it's so fascinating where our brains take us, because, you know, from an external point of view, you would think, oh, it's a no-brainer, have the surgery, life will get better. And look where our brains take us, because change is just so challenging. But yes, what did the surgeon say to you?
Well, he said he got hold of 2 X-rays, one of that day and then one of a couple of years ago, and said, the data is very clear, Susanna. Your bone density is dropping alarmingly because you're just not moving enough. And for women your age and your stage, that's not good. Because that opens you up to risk of brittle bones, you know, breaking your bones. You don't want that. But more importantly, he said, like, tell me about your day. And so I described my day, where I was just before the meeting, actually, with him. I'd just come back from going to an interview at Canary Wharf. I was coming up the escalator with all the blue tiles, and I was sort of like this and just thinking, I just really hope I don't have to walk more than 2 minutes to the coffee shop. And because I'd already done the walking I could do without being in pain. And he's such a lovely guy. And he looked at me in the eye. And this is the sort of aha moment that is where we make change. Is he said, the thing is, Susanna, you just need to get your life back. And in that moment, I just went, and everything, I was just like, the decision was made. And this huge weight lifted, which I almost felt like I was sort of levitating, actually. It was like just a release. I just went, you know what? That's really true.
Because mobility is something that is so, until you've had it taken away from you, anyone who's fortunate enough to be able-bodied, it's such a thing we take for granted. But my goodness, mobility and mental health and our ability to enjoy life, you know, once it's not there, it must just be so limiting.
And I see it with my wonderful 90-year-old mother, who needs to be moving a bit more. She had a heart operation, so her heart's in better shape, but her arteries aren't. It's really hard for her. It's really painful, because the more she moves, she basically gets cramped because there's not enough oxygen. And, you know, your daughter's a personal trainer. So guess what? I'm going, okay, Mum, so let's find the way to, you know, do some things. And we've tried doing various things. And eventually she said, we came up with this idea of ballet. She used to do ballet. And I suddenly watched her change from being, oh, I hate this, I don't want to do sitting up and down in the chair functional exercises. And she stood, I don't know whether you can see that, she sort of suddenly stood at her bar, which she's had in her hall and not used for a long time. and her whole posture changed.
Oh, wow.
And it's like her body went, yeah, I remember how to do this.
Yes.
She was standing tall and the shoulders were great. Yeah. And I was like, okay, Mum, that's what we're doing, yeah? We're doing pliés, yeah? Because really, it doesn't matter whether you do, you know,
you do whatever works for you.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But a plié, yeah.
Yeah. Because I think we touched on this as well, you know, when he said you get your life back, it's about feeling more you, not less you or a different you, just more you. So for her, that is something that's her. She remembers it. This is who she is.
Yes, where you kind of, yeah. So this thing about being fully you, we haven't really, we're slightly running out of time, aren't we? But the kind of the brain and the body, yeah. It's like we're one thing, yeah. So I had this period where like my brain was here and my body was somewhere else because it was so painful. Yeah. It was like, I'm not thinking about that. I can move it, I can get it from A to B, but almost I'm really disconnected from it because it's not really doing what I want it to do and it's really painful. And we are one system. Yeah. And that's two-way, you know. Well, it's more than that. It's like many, many, many ways. But if you're not moving, there's a chunk of you that's not there.
Yeah. And how important for Mental Health Awareness Week, you know, to talk about disconnect between mind and body, because we're finding out more and more and more and more how the two just feed each other. You know, you can't look at mental health without physical health and vice versa.
And the power is that you can, the whole thing about get out of your head and into your body, the kind of freedom of that, and then the physiological, the responses of moving the body that changes this. So if you are struggling, you know, I had a terrible day yesterday and lots of things didn't kind of pan out quite how I wanted them to. And, you know, a bit of a dance to whatever my current track just really helps, actually.
It does. It does. And it's almost ridiculous how much it helps, because you think we get into this mindset of the problems are so big that, you know, these little things can't possibly help. And then you put the track on and you have a dance. You're like, it did help, though. It did.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, it's not going to solve anything, but it just makes things easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes you're just not going to think it out.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's not really how the brain. Someone explained this to me. I don't know whether it's true. Of when you get stressed, you came up with this idea that you have, you know, like the little sea anemones in what's Little Nemo. Yeah?
Finding Nemo. Yes.
Doing this. Okay. So these are our neurons trying to connect, and when we get stressed, they do this, and then they can't connect. And then when we relax, they kind of go, oh, okay, right, we can. You know, we can do that. So I'm really
our brains back to a place where they can function.
Yes. You know, because in the and there's many more things about we can talk about how, you know, whether you call that fight, flight, freeze, fawn, you know, whatever. But it feels very true that. Moving is only good, and yet people get really stuck.
Well, I was going to ask you to talk about the 5 blocks you said that people have, because this all sounds great. Okay, so we all need to move, but what are the things that stop us?
Well, I think that the main things that I hear, and you know, we stick with 5 because we've got 5 fingers, a bit easier to remember, is I think the first one we've sort of spoken about, which is we're drawn to sit on the sofa, we're drawn to rest. And probably we've had a long day, absolutely, and we are tired, but also we're just drawn to rest because of this really powerful kind of evolutional driver. The second one is I think there's a lot of confusion or lack of clarity about what to do for me, for my body, for my particular aches and pains, or for my aims and objectives and why I want to be exercising. I think the third one, and this is one that, you know, quite often I will spend quite a bit of time with my clients on, is there's kind of blame or shame or sort of past bad experiences. So the whole notion of exercise can sort of trigger lots of, I don't do that. You know, I wasn't sporty at school. And I wasn't picked for the netball team or the football team.
I'm no good at that stuff.
I'm no good at that stuff. And also sort of around the body, like maybe I don't want to, lack of confidence in can my body do that? And do I want to show my body? Do I want to be jumping around in Lycra? Well, probably not. And why should you, quite frankly?
Not unless you really want to.
You know, we don't have to look like all the guys in sort of spandex cycling in Regent's Park every morning at sort of 6 a.m, if that's not your vibe, you know. I think classic one is, where's the time? No time. When am I going to do it? It's another burden in a time poor situation. Yeah. So when do I fit it in? Yeah. And then the last one is, you know, I hate the gym. Yes. Yeah. When people go, oh, I must go to the gym. I so need to go to the gym. And you're like, no, you don't need to go to the gym. Thank goodness. Yeah. You don't need to go to the gym to be active.
No.
But a lot of people feel that it is. And that's and for some people, that's the perfect place to go, because it really helps them to be in a particular kind of environment, because it sends the message that that's what I'm doing when I'm there. But for a lot of other people, I think it's like, well, I don't like the place. It's dark, it's black, it's got neon, there's really bad music.
Like being watched,
judged. It smells bad.
Yes.
And
it's what you said at the start. It's making it other. It's like, here's my life, and then I go to the gym. It's like, no, let's make our bodies are expecting certain types of movement. That is what we're created for. Let's just see if we can make space for that in life. Everyday life. And I think what you said about your mum is so important as well, because of course, you know, you and I, certainly now you've had your surgery, you and I are able-bodied people, you know, most of our bits work as they should, so we can do different kinds of exercise. But, you know, there are plenty of people who don't have the same capabilities. But just like with your mum, it's finding the things that you can do and that you like and that work for you. So it's not a case of, oh, well, I can't run or I can't lift weights, so I'm not going to bother. Again, let's just find a way to move.
Yeah. And I think there is always a way. You know, most recently, I've had to find different ways to exercise because I broke my wrist. Yeah. Now, the joy of being strong and fit and going, I'm going to go and start to learn to play netball. Ha ha ha. You know, 58. Great save. Hit the tarmac crap. Oh. Yeah. And so I've been exploring with what are the ways that I can do that. You know, okay, well, I can use my elbows, or I can do a one-handed, you know, downward dog, and you know, you have to be a bit creative, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, without judgment and blame and shame and I can't think of the name of the account. I'll have to tag it in later, but there's an Instagram account I follow. I think it's Fiona somebody. Oh no, okay. Lucy somebody. Anyway, I'll find out. But she talks about yoga. She's a yoga instructor, and she talks about yoga for people with larger bodies, because there are lots of yoga positions that if you have big boobs, big tummy, big butt, it's like this isn't, I can't do this. And rather than therefore I can't do yoga, she teaches yoga instructors how to adapt for larger bodies, because of course you can do yoga. It's just, as you say, it's getting creative and not feeling like you have to be this to do that. It's just what works for you.
Yes, I was chatting to someone about, we were talking about clothes, and she spoke about Brandy Melville. What a sort of pernicious little shop where there's only one size. And you can see why that works commercially. But what it means is only this kind of person can come into this shop.
Only this.
Whoa. And the thing about women's bodies, you know, so I'm very flat-chested, So lying on the floor for me is a breeze. I rather like it, But, you know, if you're not flat-chested, it's so not a breeze, Or a lot of people are very, get quite very tight and sort of hunched in the shoulders, That's really, really common. I spend a lot of time helping people trying to kind of unlock and open and build strength. And they're actually just quite weak there, So all these pictures of planks, it's like, just take it easy,
you're not going to get there straight away.
Build up a bit of strength up there and a bit more mobility, or wrists. You know, I have quite strong wrists because I love doing handstands. Always have. Really? Done it ever since I was sort of 5. Oh, wow. And it's one of my tests to see how kind of strong I am. And I really like it. But a lot of people don't. So again, when you all this stuff on the gram of everyone doing that, it's like, well, maybe your body just doesn't do that, and that's okay, because
yeah,
you can do it in other ways. So I think that's my I know how important it is to move. I know how important it was for me. And it's like, how can I help people find the ways that work for them? Yeah. That they enjoy doing, that are joyful, that can become part of life, part of a joyful life of being active, not this hideous kind of, as you say, other, add-on.
Yeah. And now I have to go to the gym and do my punishment exercise because I've been a bad person and eaten this, and it's a whole narrative that just needs to go.
No. Sorry.
Go on.
I was going to say that I was just away for a couple of days with some friends, and because of my wrist, which isn't quite back to where I'd like it to be, the thing that I used to do before that I really like doing is picking up. Obviously, you've maxed out your cabin bag, haven't you? Yeah. No, and I love kind of going, popping it in the overhead locker. Yeah. And it's a bit silly, but I was like, yeah, I'm really strong. I can do that. Yeah.
It feels good.
And there's normally someone who very generously looks at me and thinks, oh, she's a bit old and she's female. She needs a hand.
Yeah.
She's very polite. And yesterday I was very pleased that this very nice chap did do that because I was struggling. But they also like going, thanks. I'm okay. Thanks. Can I help you with yours? So
yes, it's these little, everyone's going to have a different thing that makes them feel proud and a milestone. And, not everyone is going to be like, how much can you bench, or like all this bro talk, but it's like, it might be that it's like, oh, I've got this under control. I can do this. I can carry that. And it just feels good because it's something that we couldn't do before. And for me, that is when you see the progress in yourself. It really doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. It's like, wow, I couldn't do this 6 months ago and now I can. That's something special.
And is that how long you've been working with a personal trainer?
No, I've been working now for nearly 3 years. Right. And I mean, the difference is, unbelievable. And it's all about strength. During that time, my body has changed. I've had periods of fitting into certain things. I've had periods of not fitting into certain things. That really hasn't been the focus, but my strength and the feeling of strength is something I never want to lose it. Now I've got it. It's incredible.
And what for you then you've, as someone who's gone down, which I think I knew when we came to your lovely Happier Day.
Happier Life Live. Yes. Yes.
I knew that someone mentioned, they asked me, they said, are you Helen's trainer? I went, no. Helen's trainer's here.
No, my trainer was in Bali at the time with her daughter, so she couldn't be there, but I'm hoping she'll be there next year. But yeah, so we get on well. She's a friend. Yeah. We have fun. Yeah. We have a laugh. I don't do anything I don't want to do. I don't do anything that's not enjoyable, not anymore. So it's enjoyable, it's fun, it's hard. Of course it's hard work, but it's rewarding, and it's working with someone who is very clued into women my age. She understands cyclical things, and I mean, so much we could talk about, but it is about finding that person that you can work with and whose aims and objectives align with yours, because she would help me with nutrition if I wanted her to, but she's not interested in anyone getting smaller either. That's not her thing. Yeah. So for you, Susanna, because you're based in London, so how can people work with you? If people are listening to this thinking, this is the person who has got the same view as me, how can they work with you?
Well, I think if you're in London, then depending kind of where you are, so I'm in North London, depending on sort of travel distances, then we can do sort of in person, which is really the sort of creme de la creme, I think, of training, because when you're present with someone, that whole rapport and kind of information exchange is kind of fast tracked. Yeah. So almost with any client, it's lovely to be able to do a little bit of that, even if one has to kind of travel a bit to do that. Otherwise, we can do stuff online. And normally I do that with people that I've already worked with face to face, because I think I'm very driven. I want to make sure that people are safe.
Yeah.
And they're doing things in the right way, because having an injury is just horrible. Yeah. I don't want someone twisting their knee or doing their back in.
Not aiming for that.
You know, with the best will in the world, it's quite hard on a screen to really see someone in 3 dimensions if you're not there. So it slightly depends on your capability. Yeah. But really, I think I would be more drawn to, I guess, maybe my face-to-face bit, and will be more London. And then there's people who further afield. I mean, it's a bit rogue, this. I thought, if someone calls up and they're in Yorkshire and they said they want to train, I think it sounds a bit random, but I think I would get on a train and go and see them.
Yeah.
I think that's worth the time to do that.
Yeah. And you have that freedom. You're at a time in your life where you have that freedom to do that,
exactly.
Which is fantastic.
Which sort of brings me on to this other thing. So I think, I've sort of set out my stall of saying, actually, let's work in a 12-week course, okay?
Yep.
Because in 12 weeks, you can really make a difference. So in 4 weeks, you feel a bit different. In kind of 8 weeks, you probably look a bit different. And in 12 weeks, you've built a habit. Yeah.
Yes.
And so much of change is about doing the thing and keeping on doing it. And it's interesting, you say you've been doing it for 3 years. Yeah. This lovely friend who I've started training, who hadn't really been doing very much and has a very particular thing where she has a lot of metal in her spine because she had, scoliosis. Yeah. She then says, oh yes, I'm running now as well. And I want to do a little sort of triathlon with my son or whatever. So there's this kind of change that happens once you start doing it, which you can't necessarily sort of expect. Yeah. However, this sort of premium bit, this premium bit up front, is also a way in which we could work together. So I put together something, I called it Quick Start. It's not the most, it's a bit of an obvious name.
Yeah,
but what it's saying is that, if we spend, between sort of 90 and 120 minutes together, we can have a really full-on consultation. Yeah. And that can be just on Zoom. Yeah. Or it can be in person, to really get to grips with, well, what is it you're trying to do? What might be getting in the way? And together shape what an approach is going to be, where you're going to find those 5 slices of activity. Yeah. And get them into your life in a way that makes sense, and in a way that incrementally kind of makes sense. And then I can write you this little program, which you can then do, and that will keep you going. We can decide whether it's 4 weeks or 8 weeks, but as a minimum, you go away with a clear plan that we've kind of co-created. And that's what's really important about it, because it's not me telling you what to do. It's us going, hang on, there's this and that might work. And does that make sense? I had a lovely client who we traded some skills, and she damaged her knee very badly and had to be very careful about impact and all of that, and was struggling to find the time. Yeah. And out of the chat, it became clear that the thing she really liked was this aqua lesson that she'd found, aqua kind of fit. Yeah. But making it fitted into the day was really difficult. Yeah. And then she also spoke about, it was quite busy at home and quite stressful. Yeah. And I said, I bet your husband's asked you, given it's so busy, whether he can help. And she went, oh yes, he has. I said, well, I tell you what, I bet that if you asked him whether he could give you that time to go to your class, I reckon he'd be really pleased to do that.
To be able to help. Yeah.
Because it's tangible, it's specific, it's deliverable. Yeah. And it's only a good outcome. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it can be a bit harder for husbands or guys to kind of do the emotional support, I find sometimes. And so making something really specific and deliverable is just a win-win.
Absolutely.
And she sort of looked at me and she went, "Oh,
yeah." Oh, it's something I talk about so much with my clients. It's like, I know you think you can't do X, Y, Z. Have you actually asked? Like, if we had this conversation about how we can help each other to have a happier life. But yeah.
Yes. And we spoke about this, didn't we? About this thing where part of this thing is allowing yourself to do it. Yeah. And allowing to ask. And as women, it is just so much harder because I think we're drawn, isn't it, generationally, to kind of somehow be juggling, you know, plate spinning, doing this, doing that. Yeah. So I think this sort of quick start thing, which I think I've managed to, you know, develop my tech skills and put a little link in the bio. So
Nice.
I think it should take you there. If not, you know, if you watch on the gram or you go to the website, it should appear at some point. But that's like just a sort of entry, a thing that you could do. And I put it at the kind of price of £250, which is still a significant amount of money, but is quite a good deal for having, you know, what is it, kind of 2 hours focused time to go through and really get to the bottom of what you might do. And then, you know, I've said, look, a follow-on call. Obviously, there could be other follow-on calls, because in the end, I really want to get you moving.
That's it.
Yeah. And I'm really here to facilitate that.
I love how uncomplicated you make it, Susanna. It's like, I mean, your business name is perfect. Let's just get moving. You know, it's not complicated. We're not going to make it complicated. Let's just take you from here and get you moving. And what a simple and yet such important message, and absolutely perfect for this week's mental health theme. So thank you so much. I know we'll have to do this again, because there's so much we haven't touched on. There's so much more we could talk about, but this has been absolutely brilliant. I am going to do my very best to make sure this live ends up on my grid and your grid on Instagram. So we will just cross our fingers that we can make that happen. Thank you to everyone who has joined us, because I've been seeing people come in and out as we've been talking.
Oh, exciting!
No, there's definitely been people watching. Don't you worry. And it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you, Susanna. So we will do this again. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Helen. It's my first time, and you've been a joy in helping me sort of relax and try and talk about something that I'm very passionate about, and sometimes can get rather carried away with kind of like, come on.
We love it when people get passionate about stuff. More passion. That's what we want.
More passion. Yeah. You know.
Well done. And you will never have to go live for the very first time ever again. You've done it.
Oh, brilliant. Well, what fun to do, you know. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Helen.
Such a pleasure.
I'm sure we'll speak soon.
Take care. See you soon.
All right.